Part 68. Hong Kong movies, I can see the loyalty value, I am not panicked at all. Author, Ban Wan Ching Buletin Liang. Chapter 671. Siamese people also hate drugs. Although marijuana is legalized in this country, other drugs are strictly prohibited. Therefore, when the people of Siam heard that the dead were drug dealers, they didn't want to cooperate with the police at all. In their minds, no matter how many drug dealers died, they deserved it. John Candon scratched his head. He was a little confused now and didn't know where to start. Dahu and Ergu looked at each other and said to John Candon with a sad face, "Brother Dan, don't think too much when you just arrived. Relax first. Let's go, Brother Dan. Let's have a Siamese meal first, then have a spa, and finally go to our own nightclub." John Candon, who had no idea what to do now, had to listen to the arrangements of the two and relax first. Siamese cuisine is actually similar to Javanese cuisine. It is basically sour, sweet, spicy, and fresh. John Candon is not unaccustomed to it. The famous spa in Siam is interesting, mainly because the technicians are really good at oiling, and the oil becomes thicker as they push, which allows John Candon to experience the exotic atmosphere. As night falls, the three people who are refreshed come to the most prosperous Chinatown in Bangkok. The scale and prosperity of Bangkok's Chinatown are among the best in Southeast Asia. However, because of this, there are also mixed people here, but the largest force here is of course New World. Other local gangs just follow New World to eat some leftovers. Boss. Second brother. Just by listening to the respectful greetings on the street, you can know that Dahu and Ergu have run this place well. Brother Dan, look, this is our bar. John Candon looked at the huge signboard with a few big words flashing on it, Top 1. Top 1 is the most luxurious nightclub in Bangkok, with luxurious decoration, sound effects comparable to National Studios, and interior design by internationally famous designer Kongs. Every night, it attracts a large number of celebrities and models from the fashion circle of Siam, and the reservation of booths even reaches the end of the year. How is it? Ergu looked at John Candon proudly. Haha, it's really good. You two have made progress. Although John Candon didn't see inside, the luxury sports cars waiting to park outside the door showed how popular the nightclub was. He couldn't help but sigh that it was fortunate that they entered Stanley because of a robbery and followed the eldest brother, otherwise they would not have the life of the upper class now. Brother Dan, let me tell you, we have a performance of the transvestite queen today, Ergu said mysteriously. I'm not a crow, I don't have any alternative hobbies. Anyway, the entanglement between crows and transvestites has become a joke in the New World. It's okay, I specially invited Paria, who is known as the most beautiful mature woman in Siam. Ergu leaned close to John Candon's ear and whispered. Ergu, you are a real dog, John Candon patted Ergu on the shoulder. Thank you, Brother Dan. Ergu smiled and pulled John Candon to walk into the nightclub. There was already a long line at the entrance of the nightclub, and many celebrities were waiting to enter. John Candon and his group of three were welcomed in by the doorman without queuing. Some customers who didn't know what was going on were immediately unhappy. Hey, what are you doing? We are queuing, why let them go in first? The doorman didn't even bother to raise his eyes, that's our big boss and second boss, why do you say? The man was speechless and quickly retreated into the line. If he really made a fuss, maybe they would cancel his Top 1 membership that he had finally obtained. Dahu and Ergu took John Candon directly to the most luxurious private room, in the middle room on the second floor. Sitting here, you can see the men and women twisting wildly downstairs to facilitate the selection of concubines. John Candon looked at the scene downstairs with interest, and saw those coolly dressed girls dancing to the music. The bulge on the chest also danced with the rhythm, and from above it was all white dancing flesh bombs. Damn, I finally know why this is the best room, John Candon said with a smile. Hee, that's enough, brother Dan, there are more exciting ones. Papa. Ergo stretched out his hand and clapped twice, and a group of extremely cool beauties walked out of the door. John Candon's eyes lit up. To be honest, the women in Siam and Yunnan are the most beautiful in Southeast Asia. Javanese women are actually ugly. You stay, the others go. Ergo pointed at the two with plenty of milk. The other beauties walked out with disappointment. Hee, one is enough, two, hee. John Candon's smile froze, and he saw two beauties being hugged by Dahu and Ergo one by one. Hey, that's too much. John Candon protested. Come in, Dahu shouted loudly. A graceful mature woman came in from the door. She was wearing an off-shoulder evening dress, and her huge breasts were restlessly squeezed out of a half circle. Hee, brother Dan, how could I forget you? This is Paria, who is known as the most beautiful mature woman in Siam. Ergo smiled and whispered to John Candon's ear, this Paria was once the wife of a wealthy man in Siam. She went into business because her husband's business went bankrupt. John Candon's eyes lit up. This Paria had a noble face. Judging from her temperament, her husband was definitely not a small rich man. She hasn't divorced yet. Dahu's words undoubtedly gave Paria more points. Ahem, I can barely accept it. John Candon coughed and waved at Paria. Paria sat on John Candon obediently. John Candon only felt the warmth of jade on his body and smelled the perfume, which made him a little excited. Hee, brother Dan, are you looking at this glass? Erhu knocked on the transparent French window mysteriously. Huh? What's wrong? Ergu pressed the button next to the table, swish, the transparent glass changed color instantly. He threw a coquettish eye at John Candon. Brother Dan, this kind of glass can see outside, but outside can't see inside. It's fun to do it standing up, hee. Some scenes that are not suitable for children appeared in John Candon's mind. Hey? You guys are playing very fancy. It's just so, brother Dan, don't you think it's exciting? Ergu laughed obscenely. Exciting? John Candon licked his lips and kept groping up and down with his hands. Ding-ling-ling, the rapid ringing of the phone dispelled the image in John Candon's mind. Dahu frowned and took out the phone. Damn, I don't know who called at this time, it's really a bummer. Hello? What's the matter? Arms, Dahu mumbled for a long time before hanging up the phone. Brother, what's the matter? Erhu asked curiously. Nothing, someone wants a batch of arms, and specifically wants SIG, Glock, and other firearms. Dahu waved his hand to indicate that he didn't care. Ergu scratched his head. SIG. Glock. Damn, only the police use this kind of sissy gun. Siam is very strange. Siamese police are not officially equipped with pistols when they take up their posts, but are required to buy them themselves. Therefore, most Siamese police buy firearms through smuggling channels. After all, they are good quality and cheap. Hong Kong movies, I can see the loyalty value, I am not panicked at all. Author, Ban Wanqing Buletin Liang. Chapter 672. Dahu grinned. My subordinate said it was bought by a certain police force. Speaking of which, the police in Siam are really miserable. Not only do you need to buy your own firearms, but you also need to buy your own uniforms, body armor, and other items. The key is that the salary is still low. Oh, John Candon held the gentle mature woman in his arms, and continued to gently twist and rub her in his hands. Ergu explained with a smile, Brother Dan, you don't know that the police in Siam recognize money but not people. As long as you give them some money, they can settle anything for you. John Candon nodded thoughtfully. From this look, he suspected that the police were involved in the Maihi case. Otherwise, we would not confuse right and wrong and describe ordinary crew members as drug lords. None of the three took this matter to heart, but continued to play games with the women around them. After some exchanges, the three of them all entered the sage time, and each one took out a cigarette and started puffing away. Sigh, I heard that Brother Crow was in love with a rich woman. Ergo blew out a puff of smoke, with a melancholy expression on his face. I remember that in Xiangjiang, Brother Crow led him to fight all over Bolan Street. The two of them were known as the Bolan Street cleaning tigers. If they encountered any woman who stumbled, they would scream at them and run away. Unexpectedly, Brother Wevu has also calmed down now, which makes Ergu a little disappointed. What's wrong with the rich woman? I remember that back then, I had an exchange with the rich daughter of Bangsa country. Zhang Qiandan curled his lips. He and Wu Wu were enemies. They had always been slandering each other and even competed for women. After finishing this matter, I will go to the beautiful country and ask my eldest brother to introduce me to a rich woman who is capable. Ergu licked his face and said, let me find one for me too. Roll. The two joked around for a while, and Zhang Qiandan was a little puzzled when he saw Dahua smoking and not talking. Dahua? Is something wrong? Hearing Zhang Qiandan's question, Dahua came back to his senses. Huh? Something is quite strange. Recently, some scattered drug dealers came to bulk goods in Bangkok's Chinatown. Almost everyone knows that the New World does not touch flour, and even the existence of flour is not allowed in the territory of the New World. During this period, some scattered drug dealers appeared. Although Dahua had sent people to deal with them, some flour still escaped. This damn country like Siam is full of these things. Ergu couldn't help complaining. Drug dealer, Zhang Qiandan was excited and thought of an idea in an instant. Since the Siamese police said the crew members were drug dealers, why not start the investigation from the drug dealers? Maybe they can really find something. Zhang Qiandan straightened up and said, Dahua, please help me investigate the drug dealers who have been active in Bangkok recently. Dahua was stunned when he heard this. Brother Dan, are you talking about Big Brother's mission? Zhang Qiandan nodded, yes, since we don't have any clues now, based on the clues in the newspaper, we can start from the drug dealer or dealer D. Dahua and Ergu looked at each other and nodded at the same time. This was actually the same direction. Don't worry, Brother Dan, I'll send someone to investigate right now. This matter is simply not easy for Dahua and the others. Siam, Bangkok, Siang Long District. Siang Long District is a commercial district comparable to Bangkok's Chinatown. Even though it is already late at night, the streets are still crowded and bustling with people. Prime Minister Yan was leaning at the entrance of the alley, smoking a cigarette and looking at the feasting in the distance. At this time, a skinny young man hurriedly ran from not far away. Brother, here are the remaining goods and the money from the transaction. Prime Minister Yan dropped his cigarette butt and frowned as he took the money and goods from the young man's hand. Why are there so many left? How can I explain to Brother Eli? This person is one of the drug dealers under Eli Lai of the Nokang Group, and he is responsible for selling bulk goods in Siam. There was a helpless expression on the young man's face. There are relatively few left. After all, this is a business district and there are many customers. Brother, Chinatown is the real treasure. We can definitely make money with bulk goods there. Prime Minister Yan glared at the young man and slapped him on the face. The young man staggered after being slapped, and finally stood firm, looking at Prime Minister Yan with aggrieved eyes. I hit you to save you. You just joined the industry and you don't know yet. It's a forbidden area and you can't touch it. Whoever touches it will die. Prime Minister Yan shuddered when he thought of Chinatown. Several people who came out with him to bulk goods were all in Chinatown. That is to say, I am smart and know that those people are not to be offended, otherwise my fate will be the same as others. Brother, you have to spend your life to make money. After speaking, Prime Minister Yan took out a few coins from a wad of money and handed them to the young man. After speaking, he patted his shoulder and walked towards the car on the roadside. The money must be handed over to Brother Eli before he can get his share. Prime Minister Yan drove to an abandoned warehouse in a hurry, and there was a faint light shining in the warehouse. Lao Yan, are you back? Brother Yan. Come on, come on, come and have a drink. Prime Minister Yan walked a few steps quickly and came to Eli Lai, who was sitting in seat C, and said in surprise, Brother Eli, when did you come down the mountain? Xiangze, he, I just came down from the mountain, come and have a look. Eli waved to Prime Minister Yan with some pride. After saying that, he picked up a black handbag next to him, opened the zipper and picked out a Glock from inside. Here, this is for you. Brother Nyokang recently bought a batch of arms. Drunk Eli put the gun into Prime Minister Yan's hand. Yan Xiangze took the gun curiously, looked at it carefully, and twisted his mouth. Brother Yule, where did you get this? There are scratches on the gun line. Yan Xiangze had been a soldier, so of course he knew about firearms. This pistol was a scrap one at first glance. Alas, just use it, Yule sighed and didn't want to say more. In fact, he was also complaining in his heart. He spent so much money to buy a bunch of junk. He didn't know what Nokantu was trying to do. How was it today? Not bad, these are the rest. Yan Xiangze handed the money and the goods to Yule. Yule didn't even count them, and directly took out a small half of the money from it and handed it to Yan Xiangze. This is yours. Thank you, Brother Yule. You're welcome. We are from the same village. When we were young, your mother often sent food to my house. Follow me well and I will take you to eat delicious food. Yule patted Yan Xiangze's shoulder. Yan Xiangze nodded. Selling flour is indeed more profitable than working hard. With the income from this period alone, he can build a good house in the village. But the risk is not low. This risk does not come from the Siamese police, but from the New World. Yan Xiangze believes that as long as he does not cause trouble in the New World, he will be fine. Okay, it's getting late, I have to go up the mountain too. The main reason why Yule went down the mountain this time was to distribute weapons to his drug dealers. After all, in their line of work, without a gun, it is no different from a naked beauty walking on the street. There will always be people who want to rob the thieves. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Hong Kong movies, I can see the loyalty value, I am not panicked at all. Author, Ban Wanqing Buletin Liang. Chapter 673. Brother Dahu, I found it. A dark-skinned younger brother hurried to Dahu and whispered. Since John Candon decided to start with drug dealers, Dahu immediately arranged for his younger brother to investigate drug dealers who have been active in Siam recently. Well, tell me quickly. Dahu did not dare to delay. After all, this was a task assigned by his elder brother Li Qing and he could not neglect it. There is something strange. In the past, most of the goods in Siam were from Mumayan. Now a large number of goods from the Golden Triangle are coming in, but Mumayan has no reaction. The younger brother scratched his head and said that this matter was a bit strange. Dahu and Ergu are more familiar with the situation in Siam. The flour business has always been dominated by Mumayan's Wiazao, and the flour in the Golden Triangle has always been mainly exported. Brother Dan, it's like this. The flour in Siam has always been dominated by Mumayan's Chinese Wiazao, and the goods in the Golden Triangle have been suppressed. But during this period, the goods in the Golden Triangle suddenly occupied the market. It stands to reason that Wiazao's character would not be so quiet. Dahu explained with a frown. John Candon nodded after listening. Continue. The drug dealer named Yan Xiangze who has been active in Bangkok recently seems to have only recently emerged, and I can't find out any information about him before. The younger brother said hurriedly. Yan Xiangze, John Candon repeated in a low voice. Is there something wrong with Brother Dan? Ergu asked curiously. Humph, ask him back first if there is any problem, Dahu snorted coldly. He has never had a good attitude towards these drug dealers. Well, bring him back for trial if there is any problem. John Kyandan touched his chin and agreed with Dahu's approach. Even if such a person is accidentally killed, it is considered to be eliminating harm for the people. Dahu waved at his younger brother, bring him back. Yes, Brother Hu. Yan Xiangze lazily took away the white and tender arm in front of his chest and glanced at the pheasant lying beside him. I found it casually on the street last night, but I didn't expect it to taste good. He finally enjoyed the feeling of being rich now, and stood up and took out a few banknotes from his wallet. The extra is your reward. The woman on the bed said softly, opened her hazy eyes, boss, don't you want to play? This pheasant also saw the calf who had abstained from sex for so many years for the first time. Hey, you are still addicted, I have your phone number, I will call you tonight. Yan Xiangze patted the pheasant's butt with a lewd smile, causing the woman to moan continuously. Although he also wanted to start a war again, he still had work to do today. The flour left over from yesterday had to be cleaned up today, otherwise he would not get paid. Yan Xiangze put on his clothes and staggered outside. A few dark-skinned young men were already standing downstairs of the hotel. When they saw Yan Xiangze coming out, they hurried forward to greet him. Brother Xiangze. Hello, Brother Yan. Yan Xiangze yawned, are you all here? Here, that's today's goods. We must distribute them today, otherwise we won't get any money. The young men nodded and quickly took the goods from Yan Xiangze. Don't worry, Brother Xiangze. Are we still in Xinglong district today? Yan Xiangze nodded, first in Xinglong district, tomorrow we will find a way to go to the commercial street in the city center. Although flour is a consumable, it can't withstand such a large amount of distribution. Although the city center is smaller than Xinglong district, the demand is not low. Only by developing in multiple directions can we make more money. Yan Xiangze waved his hand and asked these people to do their work. He found a breakfast shop in Xinglong district to have breakfast. Boss, give me some fried pork and glutinous rice, Yan Xiangze greeted and sat down near the street. Yesterday's battle really made him a little tired. After breakfast, he planned to find a place to take a nap. The boss waved his hand to show that he knew. Yan Xiangze took out chopsticks from the bamboo tube, poked the table twice, and waited for the boss to serve the meal. Unconsciously, he felt that there were suddenly more people around him, and they looked at him carefully from time to time. The intuition of being a soldier made him feel a thump in his heart, and suddenly felt that something was wrong. His right hand quickly touched the pistol on his waist, but someone was faster than him, and the cold barrel of the gun was already against the back of his head. By the way, his pistol was confiscated. Yan Xiangze raised his hand, friends, we are all here to make trouble. I still have some money in my pocket. If you need it, you can take it. There are mountains and rivers that meet, why bother with knives and guns? Although he didn't know who he had offended, he tried to avoid this crisis first. He, come with us. Hearing the voice from behind, Yan Xiangze was relieved, and his life was temporarily saved. At this time, he also had a guess in his mind, it is very likely that his bulk goods during this period offended other drug dealers. But he was not very worried about his situation. As long as they were drug dealers, they would give their big brother some face and would not do anything too much. Okay. Yan Xiangze was forced to get on a commercial vehicle. As soon as he got on the vehicle, he was covered with a black hood and knocked unconscious with a gun butt. Before he fainted, he didn't understand why the other party put a hood on him and knocked him unconscious. Isn't this unnecessary? Puff. After an unknown amount of time, Yan Xiangze was awakened by the cold water. The stinging pain on the back of his head made him want to reach out and touch it, but only then did he realize that he was tied to a chair, and he suddenly understood his situation. After shaking his head to shake the water droplets off his face, he saw 3 people sitting on the sofa in front of him, watching him motionless. 3. Bosses, is there any misunderstanding between us? If I cross the line, I will leave immediately. Prime Minister Yan immediately said that no matter what, it was important to save his life now. As for these people, after they went back to report on their own, some people would naturally make trouble for them. Hey, they are treating us as drug dealers, Ergo said to his 2 brothers with a smile. John Candon chuckled, it seems so. Maid, do you think we are the scum of society like you? Dahu snorted dissatisfied. Prime Minister Yan was at a loss for words for a moment, and kept complaining in his heart, looking at the way you do things, are you the pillars of society? Of course, he didn't dare to say a fart in front of him, and said with a flattering smile, I can't help it, life forces me. John Candon didn't want to talk nonsense with him, so he directly put the gun he found on Prime Minister Yan on the table, with the muzzle pointed at Prime Minister Yan faintly. Which organization do you belong to? Were you the ones who bulked up in Chinatown last time? Prime Minister Yan was stunned for a moment, his face turned pale, and he realized that the person facing him was most likely someone from the New World. Oh my God, brother, I really didn't buy anything in Chinatown. There was a cry in his voice. He didn't expect that he was still being targeted by them even though he wasn't bulking up in the New World. Hong Kong movies, I can see the loyalty value, I am not panicked at all. Author, Ban Wanqing Buletin Liang. Chapter 674. Huh? I asked you a question, but your answer was wrong. John Candon picked up the pistol on the table. Brother, don't get excited, I'm telling you. I'm from the Nyokang group, and I'm the younger brother of number 2 Eli Lai. Prime Minister Yan looked sad. He had lost confidence in the organization. Compared with the behemoth of the New World, they were like bigger ants. I heard that you have been expanding aggressively recently, and even Mu Mian's imperial edict doesn't dare to mess with you. Dahu looked at Yan Xiangze teasingly. No, no brother, I misunderstood. I'm just a small drug dealer. There are some things that we, my subordinates, don't know. Brother won't tell us either. Prime Minister Yan rolled his eyes and explained quickly. John Candon smiled and shook his head. He saw that Prime Minister Yan was not telling the truth, and without hesitation took out his pistol and pointed it at Prime Minister Yan's leg and pulled the trigger. Brother, no. Click. The pistol jammed, making everyone stunned. John Candon glanced at the pistol in confusion and cleared the barrel. Is this what you do with junk? Brother, I tell you everything. Don't shoot. Prime Minister Yan didn't dare to play any tricks now. He just said he didn't know, but he dared to shoot at the other side. He was killing people without blinking an eye. Actually, I don't know much. We used to have many conflicts with Mumian, but since the last period of time, Mumian has taken the initiative to shrink and does not dare to compete with us. That's why we're expanding. Huh? Mumian shrinks on his own initiative? Why? John Candon shook his pistol and asked curiously. Prime Minister Yan was so frightened that he followed the pistol with his eyes. This gun was a scrap. If it misfired, it would be an injustice for him to die. Brother, I just joined not long ago. There are some things Prime Minister Yan continued hurriedly, fortunately, Eli is the eldest brother next door to me in the village. I heard him bragging after drinking that he and Nyokang did a big thing, which shocked the people in Mumian. John Candon, Dahu, and Ergo looked at each other. Is it a big deal? As for what the big deal is, I really don't know. Even when he was drunk, Eli refused to talk about it. Prime Minister Yan said with a sad face. Bang! John Candon's gun burst into flames, and the bullet instantly penetrated the sole of Yan Xiangze's foot. Dahu and Ergo glanced at John Candon. Fire. This time it was a real misfire. John Candon turned off the safety in disgust, threw the gun aside, and carefully pointed the muzzle outward. Brother, I really don't know. Prime Minister Yan howled miserably, he didn't believe there was an accident. Is there anything else important? John Candon continued to ask. Prime Minister Yan held back the pain, what about the guns? These scrapped guns are the weapons that Eli gave us. It is said that they were obtained from a certain police station. What the hum? Hearing this, Dahu suddenly remembered that the last time a police station bought something from him, it can't be such a coincidence, right? Which police station? Eli didn't say. John Candon's eyes lit up, big deal? Police station? Arms. He discovered that there might really be some connection between these few things. Shame, I finally found some clues. John Candon clapped his thigh in excitement and blurted out the Northeast dialect. Put it on, continue the interrogation, and find out everything about the Nyokang organization, John Candon said happily. When the younger brother heard this, he immediately took the chair and carried it out. John Candon didn't care about Yan Xiangze's cries, turned to Dahu and said, Dahu, can you find out which police station ordered the arms? He suspected that this police station might have provided Nyokang with the weapons. Okay, Brother Dan, don't worry. It's all done with just one phone call. Dahu usually leaves this small batch of arms to his subordinates, and they must know who the dealer is. Also, we still need to arrest someone in the Nyokang group who knows the origin of the arms. Let them examine it carefully. There must be some inside information that we don't know. John Candon thought for a while and said. As long as the arms on both sides can match the number, it means that the Nyokang group is most likely the instigator of the Mekong case. John Candon felt more and more that he was uncovering the truth, and he felt inexplicably excited. You must know that this is a major case that even the Chinese police have been unable to investigate clearly. I was able to find some clues within a few days of arriving in Siam. He discovered that he really had some detective potential. The subordinates did not dare to delay and quickly followed the instructions of Dahu and John Candon. Wulian Mountain, the Nyokang drug manufacturing base halfway up the mountain. Nyokang and Eli stood on the bamboo building, watching the white mist shrouding the entire mountain range. Haha, Eli, look at this. It's an excellent hiding place. Even if the army comes to clear us out, they won't be able to find us if we hide in the mountains. Nyokang pointed at the mist and said excitedly. Wulian Mountain was the hiding place he specially found. He had taken a fancy to this mountain when he was working under the drug lord Kun Sa in his early years. When Kunsa fell, he took some people and re-established the drug manufacturing factory here. Now the scale is getting bigger and bigger, especially after the Mekong case. His power has doubled and he is making a lot of money. Eli was still a little unhappy. Brother, there is something wrong with this batch of arms. Can we not buy them from the police next time? At least half of the firearms he checked were inoperable, and he didn't know where the police got the junk. Nyokang chuckled, Eli, do you think I really want to buy arms? I want to bribe Connor and his gangsters. Eli was stunned. Why, don't we have to pay them protection money every month? Nyokang glanced at Eli. Why? Haha, because the more we earn, the more unbalanced they feel. So we must do it? Eli was a little reluctant. Does Connor know? Nyokang patted Eli on the shoulder. Haha, if he didn't understand, he wouldn't have sold us so much junk. But, we can't go on like this, right? Of course, human greed is unlimited, but now we still need to develop. As long as we have strong soldiers and horses and truly become a warlord like Kun Sa, we will naturally ignore them and even kill them to keep the secret. Nyokang stared blankly into the distance, imagining the day when he would become a great warlord. By the way, did the sales go smoothly? Don't worry, brother, everything is going smoothly. Now in Bangkok, We have robbed Mu Mian's business. Eli said with a smile. Nyokang also laughed happily. Everything was developing as he thought. But what he didn't know was that at this time, the New World in Bangkok was intensively looking for his henchmen. Hong Kong movies, I can see the loyalty value, I am not panicked at all. Author, Ban Wan Ching Buletin Liang. Chapter 675. Klong Toi District, a famous slum in Bangkok, the capital of Siam. There are 100,000 people living in this small place, and even a 20 square meter house is often shared by 10 people. The monthly income of people here is less than $150. But for people with a little money, this is a paradise. Even for $10, you can find a good-looking street walker to have fun for a night. The drizzling rainy night does not affect the business of these street walkers, because if they don't open tonight, they will go hungry tomorrow. Nick Hun is Noxum's trusted younger brother. Although he has no shortage of money, he has a perverted habit, and he killed several women because of this. Noxum also warned him, so he shifted his target to Klong Toi district. After all, this is a famous slum, and no one will pay attention if 1 or 2 street walkers die. Nick Hun looked at the young ladies standing on the street with umbrellas restlessly, and he was choosing his target today. Suddenly his eyes were on a woman who was about 20 years old, with fair skin and a good figure. Not far behind the woman stood a handsome young man who seemed to be monitoring her. Nick Hun walked forward with a lewd smile. How much for one night? The woman shrank her shoulders and looked at Nick Hun with fear. Boss, he, not expensive. The young man behind the woman walked forward with a smile and raised a finger. Nick Hun raised his eyebrows. $10. The young man looked unhappy. Brother, look at this body, look at this leg, look at this face, $100 is the only price. The young man lifted the woman's skirt while talking, and pointed at the woman's body like selling livestock to bargain. The woman's pretty face showed a sad and horrified expression, and she tried her best to pull down the skirt to maintain her dignity as a human being. The young man came to Nick Hun and whispered, Brother, she is a genuine Korean. I tricked her here. Nick Hun's eyes lit up. Illegal. The young man nodded with a lewd smile. Over the years, he has deceived many lovers from neighboring countries with his appearance. He made a lot of money just by trafficking these women. In fact, Nick Hun was concerned about whether the woman was an illegal resident. If she was an illegal resident, it would be easier to deal with her after she was found. Even if she was found, no one could find out her information. He took out $200 bills from his pocket and put them in the young man's hand. Play for one night, but I want to take her away. The young man was reluctant. After all, it was risky to take her out. If this woman ran away, he would have worked in vain. Nick Hun smiled and took out 2 more bills and handed them to the young man. Brother, he, have fun. After saying that, he pulled the woman over, pushed her into Nick Hun's arms, and walked away with a flattering smile. The woman looked at the young man walking away in fear, and shouted a few times, wanting the young man to take her away. He, come with me. Nick Hun smiled lewdly and hugged the woman's waist, forcing her to get into the car. The woman screamed and struggled, but was still stuffed into the car by Nick Hun. The car drove away from the Klong Toi area and soon arrived at his rented apartment in Bangkok. At this time, not far from his apartment, there were several commercial vehicles parked, and the people inside were staring at the direction of the apartment door. Seeing Nick Hun pulling the woman into the apartment, someone pointed at Nick Hun and said, This is the Nick Hun that Brother Dahu said. Dahu and his team had learned the general structure and personnel composition of the Nokang group through the torture of Yan Xiongze. According to Yan Xiongze's account, this Nick Hun is a confidant of Nokang and must know some secrets. It should be. Let's go, get ready for action. A team of people directly opened the car door and walked towards the apartment. Nick Hun touched the woman's chest with a lewd look on his face. then put his hand in front of his nose and smelled it. The fragrance of the shower gel made him a little intoxicated. Hee, Korean woman? I like. Ignoring the woman's scream, Nick Han opened the door and pushed the woman in directly, closing the door heavily. The woman looked at Nick Han in horror, covering her chest with her hands and backing away. Bang! The woman accidentally hit the table, and the utensils on the table fell off. The woman turned her head and took a look. There were knives on the table, and even a hacksaw, and those tools were covered with black blood stains. She seemed to realize something, and her face turned pale. Don't worry, little beauty. I will let you sleep without pain. Nick Han gave a neurotic smile. He was now in high spirits, as if he had already felt the tightness of the woman's last moments. Let me go, let me go. The woman regretted it very much. She didn't listen to her parents' advice. Only when she came here did she know that this was not heaven but hell. Nick Han ignored the woman's pleading, slowly took off his clothes, and walked towards the woman. My little beauty, don't worry, I will let you enjoy the ultimate pleasure. Your soul will fly to heaven. Don't be afraid, I will keep a certain part of your body in good condition. Nick Han walked to the refrigerator nervously and opened the refrigerator door. Look, these are all my collections. The refrigerator was filled with jars containing human organs. Some of the organs unique to women had turned white after being soaked in formalin. The woman was so scared when she saw the scene that she collapsed to the ground, using her hands and feet to try to stay away from Nick Han. You will become one of them. Nick Han stripped down to his underwear, and walked towards the woman with a lewd smile. Bang! The door of the apartment was slammed open, and the people outside rushed in. Nick Han was also frightened by the burly men who suddenly rushed in, but now he was only wearing a pair of underwear, and it was too late to get a gun. The leader took a photo in his hand and compared it. You are Nick Han? Smile. Nick Han didn't understand, but seeing that these people were pointing guns at him, he didn't dare to act rashly, and smiled obediently with yellow teeth. The leader saw his iconic yellow teeth. Damn, it's him. Beat him up. Several people came forward with the butts of the guns and beat Nick Han until his whole body was bruised and purple. Brothers, who are you? Why are you hitting me? Nick Han felt that he was wronged. This group of people beat him up without saying a word, and didn't even give him a chance to explain. Why? Damn, we've been waiting for you for 3 hours. Why are you running around on a rainy day instead of staying at home? Nick Han was speechless when he heard this. If he had known this would happen, he would definitely not come back today. No. He would never come back, and let these bastards wait for a week. Brothers, what do you want from me? Want to buy flour? Just tell me, I'll give you the lowest price. When you are under someone's roof, you have to bow your head. Nick Han covered his aching waist. Put him in a sack and take him away. Before Nick Han could react, he was put in a sack and carried out. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Hong Kong movies, I can see the loyalty value, I am not panicked at all. Author, Ban Wanqing Buletin Liang. Chapter 676. What should we do with this woman? A younger brother pointed at the Korean woman who was curled up into a ball. Kill her. Don't. The woman begged. When they heard the woman's voice, they looked at each other. Kansa language. Koreans. Now they couldn't make up their minds. Brother Dahu and Brother Ergu both knew the Korean language. Why don't we take her back first and let Brother Hu and Brother Go make their own decisions? The leader thought for a while and said. The others nodded in agreement. What the hell is this? A sharp-eyed younger brother found the open refrigerator, and the things in the refrigerator shocked him, and even made him feel like vomiting. The others approached the refrigerator, saw the things inside, and their faces looked a little ugly. They all had many lives on their shoulders, but they still couldn't accept such a perverted practice. It's so humming disgusting. Don't you have any humanity at all? I think I didn't hit him lightly just now. I'll hit him again in the car later. Damn, I'll find a needle to stab him to death. Find one for me. The younger brothers of New World took the woman out of the apartment and drove to the headquarters. Bang, the sound of heavy objects falling to the ground, accompanied by Nick Hun's wailing. Brother Tiger, the person is here. Daewoo nodded at the sack. It was so easy for them to catch someone in Bangkok. Huh? So there's a woman. Ergu's sharp eyes suddenly saw the woman hiding behind the younger brothers. Brother Dog, this is what happened. We found her in Nick Hun's apartment. Because she is Korean, we brought her back. You are Korean? Jong Kyandon asked in Korean. The woman raised her head suddenly when she heard her hometown dialect. Annyeonghaseyo, my name is Jin Shanmi. Are you Korean? Meeting a Korean at this time gave her a glimmer of hope to go home. Hee, I'm not from Korea, I'm from China and I'm Korean. Jong Kyandon waved his hand. A trace of disappointment flashed in Jin Shanmi's eyes, and she was about to say something when she was interrupted by Jong Kyandon. We'll talk about your business later. Get him out. The younger brothers quickly untied the sack and pulled Nick Hun out of the sack. Seeing Nick Hun covered with red spots, and some places had dense bleeding spots. What did you do? Jong Kyandon asked curiously. It was the first time he saw such an injury, and he didn't know what weapon caused it. Hee, I didn't do anything, I just used this thing to prick. Jong Kyandon and the other two were speechless when they saw the needle in the younger brother's hand. Good man, this is almost catching up with the 10 tortures of the Qing dynasty. This is a necessary preparation before making braised pork, right? Are the younger brothers in Siam so fancy now? Jong Kyandon smiled at Daewoo and Ergu. Daewoo touched his nose awkwardly and glared at his younger brothers. The younger brother who led the group recounted everything he saw and heard in Nick Hun's apartment. Jong Kyandon and the other two looked at the sack with disgust. Daewoo, Ergo, do you still remember Lin Kuyu who was killed by the eldest brother? Jong Kyandon suddenly remembered someone who looked like this person, so he asked. I remember, he died miserably. Daewoo shook his head. It was the first time he saw his eldest brother hate someone so much. Please ask a doctor to come over later. Don't let him die so easily. Jong Kyandon glanced at Nick Hun and whispered. Ergo nodded with a smirk and motioned for his younger brother to go downstairs and ask for a doctor. Jong Kyandon stood up and came to Nick Hun, squatted down and looked at Nick Hun. You are Nick Hun? Your boss is Nyokang. Nick Hun raised his swollen eyelids. Who are you? What do you want to do? Jong Kyandon would not answer him, and continued, I heard that Nyokang did something big recently. What big thing? Nick Hun shook his head with difficulty. I don't know, I have been in Bangkok during this period, you can check this matter. It is true that Nick Hun did not participate in Nyokang's so-called big event. It's not that he didn't want to participate, but he didn't have enough time, and Nyokang didn't notify him. Jong Kyandon looked at his younger brother, and the younger brother nodded to indicate that Nick Hun was not lying. They have already checked Nick Hun thoroughly, and he has indeed not left Bangkok during this period. Okay, there is one more thing. Nyokang recently bought a batch of arms. Where did he buy it from? Jong Kyandon continued to ask. Nick Hun said weakly, indeed, I have heard of this incident, but I only know the name of the policeman, I don't know their true identity. Speak. I only know that the man is called Connor. Jong Kyandon always felt familiar when he heard the name, but he couldn't remember who it was. After all, Siamese names are difficult to pronounce. Daewoo, is this the person who bought arms from us? Daewoo shook his head. The person who bought guns from us is called Putika. John Candon frowned. Originally, the two sides were very likely to match, but now it seems that the two sides are not the same person at all. In this case, the clue is broken again. This made John Candon, who was full of confidence, extremely uncomfortable. Could it be, I guessed wrong? In this case, he would overturn all previous conjectures, and it was not even certain whether the Mekong River case was done by Nokang. But what was the big event of the Nokang group that Yan Xiangze was talking about? Brother Dan, what should we do? De who also knew that the investigation had reached a dead end again. John Candon did not speak, but just looked at Nikan. Tell me about the conflict between you and Mumi and Weizao. Yan Xiangze knew very little about this, but Nikan, as Nyokang's confidant, must know more. Ahem. Nikan coughed and coughed up a pool of blood foam. The conflict between Nyokang and Weizao has a long history. Nyokang did not get involved in drug manufacturing in the early stage, but mainly kidnapped and extorted. The targets of kidnapping were mostly Chinese. Because of kidnapping Chinese, he had conflicts with Weizao several times. Nyokang decided to get involved in drug manufacturing and suppress Weizao's living space from the business level. Nikan talked about the grievances between Nyokang and Weizao intermittently. Nyokang kidnapped Chinese several times, and Weizao was involved. Weizao did not give Nyokang face, never paid ransom, and did not take Nyokang seriously at all. This led to Nyokang directly killing the hostages. The conflicts between the two accumulated more and more, and now they have reached an irreconcilable state. John Candon muttered in a low voice, kidnapped and blackmailed Chinese. Chinese have always been walking RMB in Nyokang's eyes. Nikan said, of course, we dare not touch the Chinese who are really powerful. Why did Weizao shrink all the way during this period? John Candon wanted to know the reason why Weizao suddenly withdrew its power. Maybe he could find the clues he wanted in it. I don't know either. I heard that it was a big event, but the people involved kept silent, and these people were not allowed to come down from the mountain. Nikon had never been up the mountain, so he didn't know much about this matter. John Candon scratched his head and frowned. Damn, it's a big event again? What is the big event? Hong Kong movies, I can see the loyalty value, I am not panicked at all. Author, Ban Wanqing Buletin Liang. Chapter 677. While John Candon was scratching his head and thinking hard, Ergu, who always talked a lot, frowned, wondering what he was thinking. Maid, I have to find out, John Candon said angrily. His curiosity was also aroused, and he had to investigate this matter clearly. Ergu, you immediately send someone to find some more drug dealers from the Nyokang group. I don't believe that no one knows the secret here. John Candon turned to Ergu, who was in deep thought. When Ergu didn't reply, John Candon glanced at him curiously. Ergu. Ergu. Huh? Brother Dan, what's wrong? Ergu came back to his senses and looked at John Candon with a blank expression. Dahu couldn't help but gave Ergu a headache. Are you distracted? Ergu touched his head. I'm thinking of someone, brother Dan, don't you think the name Connor sounds familiar? John Candon felt that the name sounded familiar at first, but he forgot where he had seen it before. But Dahu had never read the newspaper and had no impression at all. Ergu stood up and started rummaging around on the messy desk. Where is it? Who touched my newspaper on the desk? Brother Dog, it seems like the cleaning staff just cleaned it up for you. Ergu. Mad, go dig the trash can for me and make sure you find that newspaper, Ergu said loudly and somewhat angrily. The boys didn't dare to delay and ran out in a hurry. Fortunately, the cleaning lady hadn't thrown away the garbage yet. 5 minutes later, the younger brother came back holding a stack of newspapers. Ergu stepped forward and rummaged around, shouting ecstatically, found it? It's him. John Candon quickly stepped forward and pointed at the person in the photo. isn't this the deputy director of the police station you showed me last time? Yes, Brother Dan, this person's name is Connor, Ergo said excitedly. John Candon took the newspaper and looked at it seriously. No wonder it sounds familiar, it's him. Hey, is this the person? He brought the newspaper to Nikon. Nikon opened his eyes, recognized it, and nodded, that's him. John Candon had a smile on his face. It seemed that this Connor was inseparable from Nyokang. This Connor is the policeman who slandered the crew as drug traffickers. The Mekong case is very likely to be related to this person, and maybe Nyokang is also involved. I originally thought that the clue was broken, but I didn't expect that it would be connected again from here. Dahua, try to get the policeman who bought the arms and find out if he has anything to do with Connor. John Candon patted his thigh. As long as there was a connection, there must be something wrong with Connor. Brother Dan, if you want me to kidnap that Connor, don't we just put him through a trial? Why waste that time? Ergo suggested in a low voice. John Candon shook his head, this will alert the enemy. If Connor has nothing to do with the Mekong case, it will attract the attention of the real murderer, which will definitely make it harder for us to investigate. Now, without conclusive evidence, rashly kidnapping a deputy chief of the police station will definitely alert the snake. Well, don't worry, Brother Dan. I must bring Putica here. Dahua walked over and muttered a few words to the younger brothers who were waiting outside, and the younger brothers walked out of the house one after another. At this time, I met the doctor who pushed in the door and said, Brother Dan, the doctor is here. John Candon nodded and asked his younger brothers to carry Nick-Han out. It seemed that Nick-Han would be extremely miserable before he died. When they were almost gone, John Candon turned his attention to Jin Shanmei and said, Come here. Jin Shanmei glanced at John Candon timidly, and moved step by step to John Candon. Where are you from, Bangsa country? John Candon looked at the frightened Jin Shanmei with a smile. My home is in Jeju Island, Jin Shanmei said softly. Jeju Island, John Candon raised his eyebrows. Bangsa people are very arrogant. They not only think that the surrounding countries are inferior to them. There is regional discrimination even within Bangsa country. There are many fishermen in Jeju Island, and most Bangsa people are discriminatory and call the people of Jeju country bumpkins. How did you get tricked into Siam? It stands to reason that although Jeju Island is poor, it is much better than Siam. I don't know how this fool came to a place like this. Online dating. John Candon rolled his eyes when he heard this. There are too many love-minded people in this world who are ignorant of worldly affairs. Can you help me go home? Please. Jin Shanmei knelt on the ground and begged. She could also see that the man opposite was not a good person either. But at this time, she had no other choice. Now she could only hope that the man in front of her could save her, otherwise she might really die in Siam. You can go directly to the embassy of Bangsa country with your ID, and they should send you back to your country. John Candon glanced at Jin Shanmei. This woman had a good figure, but someone with his eyes could not see such an unattractive and delicate face. My identity document and passport were taken away by that person. I went to the embassy, but they didn't care about me at all because I didn't have an identity document. Jin Shanmei lowered her head and whispered. John Candon was stunned for a moment. What kind of embassy is this in Bangsa country? Are you relying on me? John Candon glanced at Jin Shanmei in a funny way. I will thank you. Please, save me, Jin Shanmei cried softly. Oh, you're a fool, forget it. Fortunately you met me. Ergo, you arrange for her to board the smuggling ship in Bangsa country. John Candon shook his head. He was in a good mood after finding the clue. He was kind enough to do good deeds. Hey, okay, Brother Dan. Ergo also glanced at Jin Shanmei. Her appearance and figure were far inferior to those of his models. who even disliked wasting film when taking pictures of her for magazines. Jin Shenmi knelt down to thank him again. John Kyandan waved his hand casually and asked his brothers to take her away. Damn, have you found Yan Xiangzhe? Yula asked loudly. Yan Xiangzhe hadn't come to pick up the goods for 2 days. Yule sent people to look for him everywhere, but couldn't find him. The key is that he still has some unpaid balance in his hands. No, I looked everywhere, but I didn't find any trace of this kid. The subordinate shook his head. Yan Xiangzhe seemed to have disappeared out of thin air, and no news of him could be found. Brother Yule, will this kid run away with the money? The other drug dealers under his command looked at Yule carefully and guessed. Yule's face was livid. Yan Xiangzhe was his fellow villager. If something went wrong, he would not be able to escape the responsibility. It shouldn't happen. He has an old mother at home. Where can he go? Yule shook his head and denied the speculation that Yan Xiangzhe ran away with the money. Besides, how much money can one have in a day? At most, there are tens of thousands of US dollars. Yan Xiangzhe will not be so unwise. Expand the scope. I don't believe that we can't find it, Yule said angrily. Expand it further, to Chinatown. The younger brother hesitated. They knew that the New World had never been polite to drug dealers like them. Yule. Hong Kong movies, I can see the loyalty value, I am not panicked at all. Author, Ban Wanqing Bulletin Liang. Chapter 678. Eli returned to the mountain with a sad face. What he was worried about was not the life and death of Prime Minister Yan, but what happened to Prime Minister Yan. Eli, what's wrong? Nyokang stood shirtless on the bamboo building, looking at Eli, who was shaking his head. Brother, it's nothing. It's just that a younger brother can't be found. I don't know if something happened. Eli took off his coat and threw it hard on the railing. Huh? Can't find it. Nyokang paused in his hands, as if he realized something. Brother. Nyokang frowned and said, Nikan is also missing. I don't know where he went. During this period of time, he has been asking Nikan to pay attention to the situation in Bangkok. First, he should pay attention to the D-product transaction. Second, he should monitor Eli, fearing that he might make any small moves. He knew all about Nikan's quirks. He had been unable to contact him before, but this time there was something different. He sent his younger brother to Nikan's house but found no one. Is there any connection between this? Isn't he elusive all day long? Eli was confused. Is it normal for two of us to disappear at the same time? Nyokang glared at Eli angrily. Didn't a lot of people disappear in Chinatown last time? Eli muttered in a low voice. Nyokang ignored Eli's words. He intuitively felt that something was wrong, but he couldn't tell what was wrong. Forget it, let's wait until this period of time has passed. Customers have urged you to get this batch of goods, so please take a good look at it. Nyokang told Eli that he should take advantage of this period to open up sales and completely seize Mumian's market. Hey, don't worry, big brother. I'll go right away. Nyokang looked at Eli's back and frowned. It shouldn't be Eli, he doesn't have that kind of intention. Putika, are you off work? Brother Putika, why don't you go have some barbecue? Putika. Putika walked out of the second border police station with a smile on his face. He was living a very happy life these days, thanks to his brother-in-law, a deputy chief, who made a lot of money. By the way, he also brought along people with good connections in the police station and made a small fortune. I got on the second-hand Alpha I just bought. Although this car is second-hand, it is not cheap here. It's thanks to his small profit, otherwise he really wouldn't be able to afford it. Putika lit the fire and hummed a tune. He had arranged his evening schedule. Today, his brother-in-law was working the night shift. He planned to take Aya to a movie and dinner, and then hey. Just as he was thinking about Aya's beautiful figure, there was a soft sound of boom and he rear-ended him. Putika's eyes widened. He rarely saw anyone dare to touch his porcelain. Without saying anything, he took the police uniform from the passenger seat and put it on him. He opened the door and walked out. Damn it, if you dare to touch my new car, I won't let you lose everything today, you will. Putika's mouth was stuffed with a pistol silencer. Brother, if you have something to say, please tell me. Putika raised his hands and said vaguely. Get in. Putika crawled into the car. Compared with surviving, nothing mattered. All he could think about now was panic. Big brother, who are you? We don't seem to have much interaction. Putika sat in the car with his head lowered. Lift your humming head up, the New World boy said angrily. They haven't seen Putika's appearance clearly yet, and they are afraid that they have arrested the wrong person. Putika shook his head like a rattle. He was not stupid. He could still live without seeing their appearance. If he did, he would never let him out alive. As a policeman, he has seen too many things like this. The younger brother put the gun directly to Putika's chin. I'm going to make you raise your humming head. Putika was forced to raise his head, but his eyes were tightly closed, and he would not open them even if he was beaten to death. It's him. Let's go. Putika only felt that the kidnapper started the car and drove forward. Brother, my brother-in-law is Connor, the deputy director of the Border Bureau. If you need any help, just ask. Putika is a little smart. He knows how to tell the kidnapper about his brother-in-law, so that the kidnapper will be afraid. But Connor may be useful to ordinary kidnappers, but he is useless to the New World. But after hearing Putika's words, the boys in the New World looked at each other with joy on their faces. This boy is indeed related to Connor. Be honest. Then he put a black mask on Putika's head. I don't know how long it took, but after several hours of tossing, Putika became more and more frightened. He didn't know what these people were going to do to him. He just felt like he was being dragged out of the car and into a confined space. Are you Putika? Putika heard a deep baritone voice. He nodded fiercely. I am. I heard that you bought some arms some time ago. Where did these arms go? Although Putika couldn't see it, just by hearing his voice, he felt that this man was a big shot. Brother, do we have any misunderstanding? The gun was bought for the police station. I did not sell it to the local armed forces. Putika now believes that his purchase of guns may have involved other local armed forces. Police station? As far as I know, the 2nd Border Bureau has not changed its equipment. You are lying to me. Putika was shocked. He didn't expect that the other party would investigate in such detail. Pull it down and bury it. Brother, no, the gun is for the Border Bureau 1. Connor, the deputy director of the Border Bureau 1, is my brother-in-law. John Candon had already learned the news from his younger brother, and this time he just wanted to confirm it. Then, why didn't he buy it himself? Putika now knows everything. In order to survive, he asked me to buy it because he was afraid of attracting attention. Oh? Attracting attention? Isn't it normal for the police to change equipment? John Candon continued to ask, touching his chin. In fact, it has become an unspoken rule for the Siamese police to buy smuggled guns, and the upper echelons also turn a blind eye. After all, the money is not paid by them, and they don't care much about these things. Putika paused. I'm not very clear, but my brother-in-law asked me to exchange a bunch of broken firearms from the 2nd Bureau. Connor didn't tell him about this, and he didn't ask much. After all, there are some things that he is not convenient to know. Broken. John Candon and Ahu looked at each other and remembered Yan Xiangze's broken gun. That's right, Ergu patted his thigh. Connor and Nokang must have a deal. John Candon suppressed his excitement and continued to ask, do you know Nokang? What is the relationship between Connor and Nokang? No Kang, I know. He is a big drug lord in the Golden Triangle area, but I really don't know what relationship my brother-in-law has with him. Putica shook his head and said he didn't know. John Candon looked disappointed. He still hoped that Putica could know some other information. I don't know what's the use of keeping you, take you out and bury you. No. I have a secret. About my brother-in-law. John Candon waved away the younger brother who was about to take action. My brother-in-law has a mistress named Aya. Some time ago, my brother-in-law went to her in the middle of the night, wearing equipment he got from nowhere, and his body was covered with blood spots. He also asked Aya to bury the equipment. In order to save his life, Putica told all the secrets he thought were strange. What time? About 10:54 and 36 seconds p.m. on October 5 th. Are you lying to me? You can remember the exact seconds. Ergo stood up and gave Putica a kick. John Candon and Dahu also looked at Putica with suspicion. Putica was kicked to the ground, enduring the pain. That day, cough cough, I was hiding under the bed. John Candon, Dahu, Ergo. All the younger brothers. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Hong Kong movies, I can see the loyalty value, I am not panicked at all. Author, Ban Wanqing Buletin Liang. Chapter 679. Good guy, you are just like a toad sleeping with a frog. An ugly flower. Ergo rubbed his hands, he was extremely interested in this matter. How about you elaborate? When John Candon heard Ergo's words, he gave him a sharp look and said, you're a little more formal, okay. Ergo smiled awkwardly, not daring to say anything more. You continue. John Candon pointed at Putica and said. They have been struggling for a long time. Made. This kind of thing can be summarized briefly. Putica nodded hurriedly. Hey, okay, after they were finished, I heard my brother-in-law muttering that he had killed many people today, and asked Xiao to burn these bloody clothes, firearms, bury it somewhere where no one can find it. John Candon's eyes lit up and he asked hurriedly, did Connor say what he went to do? Putica shook his head and said that other than that, Connor didn't say much all night. John Candon nodded. He was now sure that Connor was definitely involved in the Mekong case. It was hard to say how much he was involved in. Putica's words alone cannot be used as evidence, but New World has never paid attention to evidence when doing things. Send a team of people to follow him to Connor's house to dig up those guns. Others are getting ready to go to the border. Having just learned that Connor was on duty tonight, John Candon didn't want to wait any longer. As long as he caught Connor, everything would be revealed. In this way, most of the people followed John Candon and the others directly to the border city. After all, it was better to bring more people with the urban police station to arrest people. After nearly 6 hours of trekking, the group arrived at the border city. When we arrived at the border station, it was already 2 o'clock in the morning. In the building of Border Bureau 1, only the lights in the duty room were on. John Candon winked, and several of his subordinates rushed in cautiously. There was only one middle-aged and elderly man with gray hair in the duty room. Apparently Deputy Director Connor was lazy. Don't talk. I'll ask you a question and you answer it. The younger brother put the gun on the sleepy guard's head. The frightened guard nodded to show that he understood. Where is Deputy Chief Connor? Why is he not on duty at the police station? The guard replied tremblingly, the deputy director said that he went to Aqua District for something today and asked me to be on duty for him. It's none of my business. Aqua District, it's broken. Connor's mistress seems to be in Aqua District. John Candon frowned and said, he was not afraid that his younger brother would be injured, he was afraid that the team would not kill Connor. If Connor died, his clues would be cut off again. Let's go to Ak district quickly. Brother Dan, how can we deal with this man? Ergu pointed at the guard who kept pleading. John Candon walked to the guard and squatted down. Did you participate in Connor's operation? No, no, the guard waved his hands repeatedly. Make him suffer a sudden cardiac death. John Candon glared, do you think I'm a fool? Most people will ask what the action was, but you directly denied it. You must have participated. The younger brother heard John Candon's order and took out the syringe from his bag with a grin. The somewhat turbid liquid inside kept swaying. John Candon and others no longer care about the life and death of the guards. They must rush to Aya's house. Ak district, in a small apartment. Aya was lying naked on the bed, and the man next to her was already snoring. Although it was already past 2 o'clock in the morning, she was still a little frightened. I originally wanted to go to Putica tonight, but I waited and Connor came. But it's a good thing that Putica didn't come, otherwise someone might have died tonight. After Connor arrived, she never had the chance to inform Putica. Aya carefully glanced at Connor, who was already asleep beside her, and carefully took out her mobile phone, trying to send a text message to Putica to tell him not to come tonight. But God is not as good as man. Before her message was sent, a bird chirped outside the house. This bird's cry immediately frightened Aya and turned pale. It was the bird's cry that she had agreed with Putica. Then there was a soft knock on the door. Aya looked carefully at the man next to her and saw that Connor didn't respond and was still sleeping soundly. She felt a little relieved. Wrapped in a thin blanket, he walked out quietly, opened the door a crack. Hurry up, he is inside. Huh. These people are. As soon as Aya said a few words, she saw Putica with a bruised nose and face and the New World members behind him. Putica was shocked when he heard Aya's words. What? You said my brother-in-law is inside. Aya didn't care about anything else and nodded quickly. You should leave quickly, it would be terrible if he finds out. Aya, who is outside? I don't know. When Connor stood not far behind Aya, holding a gun in his hand and questioning with a sullen face. Aya was startled and let go of the door handle. Only then did Connor see the person outside the door clearly. Without thinking much, Connor raised the gun in his hand and started shooting. The younger brother from the New World also reacted very quickly. He took out his pistol and took cover, then started shooting. There was constant gunfire for a while. Inside the house, Connor was livid, hiding behind the sofa and changing bullets. Although he came out today with a pistol, he didn't bring many bullets. Seeing that there were many people outside the door, the firepower on the other side must be stronger than his own. His only thought now is to escape. Although he didn't know what those people outside were doing, he could tell from his years of experience as a police officer that they were all desperate criminals. Bang bang. Bullets sent debris flying all over the house. Damn, where did they come from? Are they so cruel? The dense bullets made him unable to raise his head. While the other side was changing bullets, he rolled to the bedroom and tried to jump out the window to escape. But there were already 2 people guarding the window, and they raised their guns and shot as soon as they saw his figure. Connor realized that he was trapped in the house, but the strange thing was that the other party didn't kill him, otherwise he would have been shot in front of the window just now. Brothers outside, what do you want to do? We can talk about it. I have some status here and can help you solve some problems. Connor used a delaying tactic directly. This place was not far from the nearest police station, and they should have heard the gunshots. But there was no movement from the other side, but a familiar voice sounded, "Brother-in-law, surrender." Connor's teeth almost broke when he heard Putica's voice. It's Putica. Now he began to wonder if these people came to his house because of the arms. Just when Connor was thinking about it, John Candon and his group finally rushed to Xiao's apartment, and he was relieved when he heard the gunshots. The gunshots proved that Connor inside was not dead. Hong Kong movies, I can see the loyalty value, I am not panicked at all. Author, Ban Wanqing Buletin Liang. Chapter 680. How's the situation inside? Without waiting for his younger brother to report, John Candon quickly asked. A younger brother quickly came up to answer, Brother Dan, the grandson has been blocked inside. The grandson is still resisting. John Candon looked carefully into the house, but couldn't see anything from where he stood. Tear gas, damn, let's see how long he can hold on, John Candon said angrily. Just in case, Dahu took a few more tear gas canisters. The boys took tear gas canisters from the car and threw them all into the house. The entire apartment was enveloped in the smoke of the tear gas canisters. Even John Candon and others standing outside the door could smell the choking smell. Ahem, step back. I don't believe this bitch can't come out. People outside the house were coughing frequently, and Connor inside the house had a runny nose and tears flowing out at the same time. He tried his best to crawl to the bathroom, wet a towel with water and cover his mouth and nose, but these could only alleviate the symptoms, and his eyes were already so painful that he could not open them. The irritants in his trachea also caused constant coughing. Now he only had two options: to stay in the room and suffocate to death, the other was to rush out and surrender, which would still have a chance of survival. Connor secretly weighed it in his mind. The other party didn't look like he was going to die, otherwise he could just throw a grenade instead of tear gas. Ahem, I surrender. Connor rolled out of the apartment and was pinned to the ground by a group of people and tied up as soon as he walked out. John Candon took a careful look at Connor, who had dark skin and a short and stocky build typical of Southeast Asians. Are you Connor? Connor was lifted up and slid up to sit on the ground. Only now did he see the people opposite him clearly. Who are you? Is it because of the arms issue? After saying that, he looked at Putica, who was not far away, hugging Xiao, with a sinister look in his eyes. Arms. Haha, I ask you to answer, otherwise I will make your life worse than death. John Candon walked to Connor seriously and said, our doctor just performed a surgery on someone, I believe he is not satisfied yet. Connor's mouth twitched, but he didn't dare to say anything harsh. Are you involved in the Mekong case? John Candon didn't have the mood or time to trick him. If he didn't tell the truth, he would resort to tricks. Connor felt as if a stone was sinking in his heart when he heard this. He never imagined that this person wanted to investigate the Mekong case. But he can't tell this matter even to death. After telling him, China will never let him go. Connor looked calm and pretended to be confused. Huh? The Mekong case? I was involved in the investigation of this case, but it has been found that those who died were drug dealers. John Candon chuckled, you won't shed tears even if you don't see the coffin? So, it's a trick. Immediately, a younger brother stepped forward with a grin, pulled out a dagger and cut off Connor's right little finger without hesitation. Connor's screams made Putica and Xiao tremble. Especially Putica, he only now discovered that these people were friendly to him. But Connor was also stubborn and gritted his teeth, I really don't know. I'm just a member of the team investigating this case, and I don't know some things. Of course John Candon didn't believe what Connor said. Continue. At this moment, the little brother who was letting loose hurriedly ran in, Brother Egg, Brother Tiger, Brother Dog, the police are here. Upon hearing this, John Candon knew that now was not the best time for interrogation, so he waved his hand directly, take him with you and let's go. Brother Dan, what should we do with these two people? Ergo pointed at Putica and Aya who were hugging each other in the corner. John Candon thought for a while, they are still useful, take them with you. Putica let out a sigh of relief. He was really afraid that the other party would kill them. The boys pushed the three people into the car, and the convoy quickly drove in the opposite direction to the police car. In the car, A simple hemostatic bandage was applied to Connor to prevent him from losing too much blood. Connor, who was tied up with 5 flowers, endured the pain and looked at Pudica sinisterly. Pudica was a little scared. "Brother-in-law, don't look at me like this, I'm scared." When Connor heard the word brother-in-law, he became even more angry. "You still think I'm your brother-in-law? Do you want to play with my women? Are you worthy of me?" To be honest, Connor was really good to this brother-in-law. Not only did he solve his job, but he also helped him make a fortune together. Brother-in-law, we are true love." Pudica looked at Connor with a serious expression and put his arms around Aya. "I love you so much." Connor struggled hard and tried to attack Pudica, but he was tied too tightly and he couldn't reach Pudica at all. Pudica looked at Connor unconvinced. "You are fooling around like this outside, am I worthy of my sister?" Seeing that Pudica still dared to talk back, Connor spit out a thick mouthful of phlegm. "The ungrateful white-eyed wolf." Pudica dodged, but due to Connor's power, Pudica still didn't make a move, but he kept cursing. A few hours later, both of them were a little thirsty, and the convoy had arrived at its destination. The 3 of them were hooded and pushed towards an unknown place. Contrary to Pudica's mood, Connor knew that the time ahead would be extremely difficult for him. The facts were correct as he thought. The younger brother in the New World tried every means to make him unable to hold on any longer. "I can say it, but I want to say it to your leader." Connor, covered in blood, spoke intermittently. After a long while, John Candon walked into the house smoking a cigarette. "Go ahead. Are you sure you want to listen? This matter involves other forces. Once you know it, you can't get away from it." Hearing Connor's words, John Candon smiled contemptuously. "Oh, then I'm more interested." As long as it's in Southeast Asia, John Candon doesn't believe that there are other forces that can threaten the New World. Connor tried to look up at John Candon and smiled. He knew he couldn't survive, and he wanted to drag the man in front of him into it. Once other people know that he is missing, they will definitely investigate and follow the clues to find him. These people in front of them will not have a good end. Since you want to know, I'll tell you. Yes, I participated in the Mekong River case, and I took people to kill a boat of people with my own hands. Connor smiled and told the truth. A hint of joy flashed across John Candon's face. "Are you saying that the Mekong River case was done by you?" This time he finally guessed it right. This Connor was indeed related to the Mekong River case. "I was just a participant, but I certainly wasn't the leader." Connor looked at John Candon coldly. "Who is the main culprit?" Connor raised his head and spat out a mouthful of blood foam. "I can tell you, but you also tell me one thing." "Huh? What is it?" Connor stared at John Candon. "Who are you? Chinese police? Or agents?"